Uh, but first thing first, we are sitting on 29th of December 2023. And the one thing that people do at this time of the year is look back at the year. And most YouTube channels at this time will be doing what's my recap, what's my biggest story. And I know we are on our first episode, but why not do with one big story? What do you think is the biggest thing that happened that affected your lives or generally the world's lives, and continuing to do that in the next months or years? And I'll start with myself. For me, the biggest story of this year has been AI. We started with generative AI on ChatGPT 3, then 3.5, and 4. And then during the time, we also had Bard, Copilot. We had the top management drama in OpenAI. We ended the year with Google Gemini. And Vix, you've been close to that also. You're sitting right in the heart of Silicon Valley. Uh, would you agree, or do you have another top story of the year? What's the biggest impactful thing that happened in this year?
Sure. So, Mix, I think generative AI is definitely top. I think there's something else which I think is right there, and that's the coming into our social consciousness, the GLP-1 medications. What I'm hearing in Silicon Valley is that what GLP-1s are doing, like, Ogivy and all these medications that people who take to reduce weight or to control their diabetes. See, what happened is that in the last 30, 40 years, industrialization put a lot of things in front of our eyes that were not easily available. Like uh, we are not used to dealing with salt and sugar and fat being so easily available in front of us. We are not used to dealing with porn being available in front of us. So the what GLP-1 medications are doing is that they're working on our impulse control, and I've seen a lot of friends do better with their addiction to cigarettes, to alcohol, to food, to porn, all these things with the help of GLP-1 medication. So I think obviously these medications have side effects, right? You lose some muscle mass, and they're not something that they become a lifelong medication if you need to stay on them. But I think our brains were not designed for the impulse that the industrial age is throwing at us. I have myself many times just sat in front of the TV and started eating the salted peanuts because they were right in front of me. They were yummy, and the industrialization put them in front of me for $3 a packet. And uh, so my brain is not designed to overcome that impulse. And I think the class of GLP-1 medications, I think they came into our social consciousness this year. I was at Walgreens recently, and there were four guys ahead of me, and everyone was there picking up a GLP-1 medication, and people were paying $500 a month out of pocket because insurance doesn't cover that medication, you see.
I'll quickly interrupt you. I know a bit about this, but for our viewers, what is GLP-1? What does GLNP stand for?
Uh, I do not know the full form of GLP-1. What I know is that they help our body produce some hormones in our gut or in our liver, and what that does is that it somehow helps us control our impulses. Uh, I don't know how it works, uh, and but it seems to help us control impulses for cigarettes, for alcohol. It's not only for food. Uh, yeah.
Got it. Got it. And Chow, what is your biggest story of the year? What do you think has impacted and will impact the world?
I think ChatGPT generative AI has been one of the biggest stories. The fact that it just took everything by storm. And apart from the people who were very closely associated with it, people did not really see it coming in such a big way. And hitting 100 million users in about 2 months is something which demonstrates the impact of it. I believe, yeah, I'll talk a little about that, but I also want to add that post COVID, one of the things which has majorly happened in the world is mental health coming to the forefront from being a relatively nascent undercurrent need to becoming a more visible need. As they say, there's a very good quote from Frederick Douglass. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So that's one space where across the world, a lot of work is happening to kind of develop those psychological strengths, build stronger children than to repair broken men. But coming back to ChatGPT and basically generative AI, I think the way it has emerged is just the beginning. Newer models are emerging, and the way we see the impact of LAN network, basic computing, and so on. Maybe within a year, it will be so much of a part of everything around us that we probably won't be talking about it as something special. So that's how I'm looking at it becoming so pervasive in our life.
Perfect. Perfect. So we have two and a half stories between us. That so there is AI, generative AI. There is GLP, and we have an implication of AI, but more specifically on mental health that we think. I mean, in and I think that's a huge canvas